Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about why an AR pistol in 9mm is a great choice for carry during a riot situation. Okay, so this is a 9mm AR. This particular one's from Palmetto State Armory. And a lot of times this will be referred to as a pistol caliber carbine, also PCC for short. And it's a great training gun. I like training with it because I'm able to I'm able to shoot the steel targets a lot closer than I can with an AR. So I use them a lot for that reason. But in this video, we're talking about more than just training with the gun, but actually using it for self-defense, specifically in a riot situation. Now the question becomes, there's a riot going on, why are you leaving your house at all? Well, the answer to that is, well, there was not one going on this morning when you sent your kids out to school, and now they're out there. There's problems around town, and you need to go get your kids and bring them back home. Okay, they don't have a way to get back home. Police are not responding. They've called you up. They told you that they're scared. They're in a dangerous area. You've got to go get your kids. We already saw down in Uvalde, Texas, that the police are not coming to save your kids when they're really in trouble. Okay, so it's up to you and only you to defend yourself and your family. Okay, so that's history now. That's absolute proof there. Okay, so now if you're going to be going into what is an obviously dangerous situation, you want to have two guns at the minimum. Okay, you always want to have two guns because guns can jam up. You can have problems. We're going to talk about that more. You want to have two guns. Now, one option could be to have, a full-size duty gun like this, like a service pistol that you carry here, and then, a backup gun over here. This is a Glock 43. Okay, this one here is a G17. Okay, so I've got a full-size gun and a backup, and you can, however you want to set up. You can have one on this side, one on that side. That's not the issue that we're really talking about here. But I have two guns here that really don't interfere with each other. I can access either one. Okay, get that on target. If that stops working for whatever reason, I can go to the backup gun, get that on target. I've got two guns. Okay, so here's the thing, though. By now we all know that a rifle is way superior to a pistol. You can hit targets both at close distances and far away, with a lot more certainty. You can hit the things you want to hit, not hit things you don't want to hit. So ideally, instead of having these two guns, okay, let's take this off for a second. Okay, ideally, instead of having those two guns, I would rather go out with this AR-15 and a pistol as a backup, and it wouldn't even be this G43. It would probably be this one and a full-size Glock 17 or Glock 19. Okay, so those would be the preferred guns that I would go out. However, in my state, in Pennsylvania, you cannot carry a rifle loaded. Okay, now there is an exception. It's called a necessity clause, where if you can basically prove that there was a necessity for you to carry a rifle, you can, basically you would be justified. However, the burden of proof is on you to prove that that necessity existed. And now, that kind of depends on who your local prosecutor is and how pro or against gun rights are. Are they on your side or are they on the side of the rioters? So the point is that it puts that burden on you. Okay, so I would like to avoid having that burden on me. So since I cannot carry a loaded rifle, my next best option, okay, would be an AR pistol, because in my state, in Pennsylvania, this is a legal pistol. Okay, it's actually, when you buy it, it's registered with the state police as a pistol, and I can legally carry this loaded, either on my body or in my truck. I can even open carry this, right? Because this is a pistol, and this is a gun that I can shoot a lot better at all distances. Now, there's a problem, because this is a 5.56, right? You can see it's a regular size AR magazine, and the problem is when you're shooting rifle rounds in a short barrel like this, right? And this is a 10.5-inch barrel. Well, actually, this is a 7.5 inches. And a 7.5-inch barrel. It is extremely loud, and there is a tremendous blast, and that's regardless of the fact that I got a linear comp on here. That does reduce the noise and the flash a little bit, but not by a whole lot. Now, mind you, there's a good chance that this is going to be happening at night, right? Because the rioters usually go crazy at night. So I posted videos where I'm shooting this gun here with the 7.5-inch barrel at those targets over there. So when I'm sitting here and I'm shooting boom, 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 the flash that comes out of the front end, right, temporarily blinds me, and I cannot see the targets, okay? Especially if you're firing in rapid succession, you lose sight of your target, and it also washes out your reticle, or if you're using iron sights, your iron sights. So you lose sight of your reticle and your target, and through lots of testing and practice, I have seen that this is not a great gun to shoot at night for those reasons. Now, ideally, if you could put a suppressor on this, it would take care of that, both that extreme noise problem and the flash. The reason why special forces units put suppressors on their short barrel rifles is not for the noise reduction, because the bullet's still supersonic. You're still getting a sonic boom. Okay, so it's still a very loud gun, even if you put a suppressor on this. But the benefit of the flash suppression, that is the biggest benefit of a suppressor. And hopefully, with the new Supreme Court ruling that came out, basically the suppressors will come completely out of the NFA. Hopefully the NFA will be destroyed completely, and there won't be an NFA at some point. But until that happens, there's issues with getting suppressor on this gun. Because you gotta go through the federal government. It's a pain in the ass. So there's issues with shooting this gun at night because of that flash, right? That flash, the problem. So there is a solution to that. Okay, and the solution is having the same gun, right? This one has a 10.5-inch barrel. Okay, the same gun in 9mm. Okay, and the nice thing about having this in 9mm is I can just have a regular bird cage on this, and I've done videos where I shoot this at night, and you can barely see the flash. There's a tiny little bit of flash, but when you're shooting, you can barely see it. It doesn't obscure your target, right? It doesn't obscure your reticle. It doesn't it's not like a big flash where all of a sudden you can't see your reticle. So this is a great gun to shoot at night, and also we don't have that extreme noise issue. I mean, it is loud. You still need ear protection, but if you shoot it without ear protection, it's not like the other one, right? Like this, because this one is extremely loud. If you shoot the 7.5-inch 5.56 AR pistol without ear protection, it's gonna, I mean, it will really damage your ears. Even when I put earmuffs on and I shoot this, if I shoot 100 rounds with this, I still get a headache. Okay, that's how loud this is. This thing really needs a suppressor. But anyway, let's focus on what is available to us, right? So this AR pistol, right, with the sling, okay, as your primary. Now, if I have a coat, I can basically cover this up with the coat. I can legally keep this in my car, in my carry, with my carry permit, because this is a pistol, and I'm able to. I have all the benefits of a long gun in a legal pistol. Now, let me take this off for a second, and let's talk about the pistol. What I have here is a factory Glock 17, okay? Factory Glock 17. And over here I have a factory Glock 17 magazine, okay? Now, one of the things that I'm going to demonstrate to you is that if you don't hold this gun correctly, if you hold it with a weak grip, okay, even a Glock 17, which is considered among the most reliable guns, will jam up, okay? So let me first fire a couple of rounds just to demonstrate, okay? Just to demonstrate that this is a very reliable gun, right? I'm just gonna fire a couple. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to intentionally jam up this gun by taking a weak grip. There you go. I just jammed up the gun, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna unjam it, and now I'm gonna fire a couple more rounds with a strong grip, okay? right, so I have demonstrated to you guys that even with what is considered one of the most reliable guns, okay, the Glock 17, okay, if you don't have a firm grip, you will jam up this gun. Now, by contrast, first of all, let's talk about why that's happening. Right? Let's talk about the why. In order for a semi-automatic gun to work, basically the bottom part has to stay steady while the slide goes all the way back, right? So this has to run back and forth in order for this gun to work out. Now, if the gun is held loose and the whole thing is moving around, that slide's not going to come back all the way. It's going to come back only halfway, and it's going to either fail to eject the empty case or fail to pick up the next round. And before you get ahead of yourself and say, hey, well, what if I just have a revolver or something? Well, revolvers have their own sets of problems. Revolvers, first of all, they have much harder trigger pulls. Most women can't shoot those, can't squeeze that trigger and keep the sight on target. The other thing is because it's revolving, basically the guts of a revolver are exposed. If something gets caught up in that revolving action, it's going to jam up the gun, or if dirt or something or dust gets in there, it's also going to jam up the gun. So it's a combination of, it's harder for a lot of people to shoot and get on target, right, because of the harder trigger pull, and also its guts are exposed, right, because with this gun over here, it's closed, right. So as long as this gun is not open like that, if this gun is closed, I can throw this into sand, pick it up, the gun will still fire because nothing can get into the guts of the gun. With a revolver, the guts are exposed, so if it falls in the dirt or sand, you know, basically it's going to stop working. Okay, that's why the military got away from revolvers as fast as they could, and they moved to a 1911 because it's closed and dirt and dust can't get into it. Okay, so what I want to demonstrate now, because what we said here is that in order for the gun to work, the bottom part has to stay steady while the top is going back and forth. Right, the gun can't be moving around like this. It has to stay. It has to be like this. Now, if you notice that I was shooting this one-handed, right? And even one-handed, I was able to shoot the gun and still not jam up the gun because I practiced, right? I practiced doing a lot of one-handed shooting. Even in my left hand, I practiced shooting one-handed. So you can shoot the gun one-handed and not jam it up, but it takes extra training, and it's not something that beginners can easily do. Now, what I want to demonstrate now is with the AR pistol, right? It's the same idea here. In order for this gun to work, okay, the gun has to stay steady while the bolt is moving back and forth, okay? Right, same exact idea there, okay? But the benefit of the AR pistol is because this gun is heavier, okay? Even if I shoot this if I hold this in a weak position, the mass of the gun is enough to absorb the recoil and keep the gun relatively steady while the bolt is moving back and forth, okay? Let me get my ears back on. Right, so I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to hold this gun one-handed, hold it in a very weak position, all right? And I'm going to shoot the gun. Okay? I'll hold it upside down. Let's do it this way, like that, right? Right? So even in these weird, stupid positions, okay, not only is the gun not jamming, but I can still hit the target. Okay, so this is a major advantage. Let's do something weird like this. How about this? Let's shoot the gun like this, all right? Is it going to jam up? Let's see. I'm really stretched out here in a stupid position. Where are you? There's my sight. And I still hit the target without jamming up the gun. All right, let's unload this thing. All right, so I think I made my point there that one of the advantages of an AR pistol is you got the benefit of accuracy, because here's the thing, your hands are further apart. One of the things I find with people when they hold handguns is, and I tell them to extend, they're either going like this or like that. They have a hard sense of where the gun is pointed because their hands are so close together. When the hands are further apart, people have a better sense of where the gun is pointed. So when I tell people, you know, hold the gun and put your hand underneath the target, they get right to it. They're not going to go like that because they can see their hand further out in front of them, and they have a better sense of where their hands are oriented. Okay, so even in the dark, even in a situation where you've been hit a few times, and you are discombobulated, because that's one of the things that you got to consider. In a self-defense situation, you may have already been hit over the head with something, okay? So you have to be able to fight under those circumstances. And if you've been hit, it's a lot easier to, if you have a longer gun, it's a lot easier to point this in the direction, or even if you bring it in here, you have a better sense of where this is pointed, and the gun will work. If you have to shorten this gun up and shoot the gun like this, or like this, you have a better sense of where the gun is without even looking at your sights. In fact, I remember from the Rittenhouse trial, there's a picture of Kyle Rittenhouse sitting on his ass on the ground after he's been knocked back, and he's holding the gun like this, not aiming. In fact, he didn't use his sights at all for his self-defense encounter, and he was still able to hit everybody without even aiming the gun. It's extremely hard to do that with a pistol without lots of training. So there's a big difference here in the level of training that's involved with being able to use a rifle-like gun, okay, in a self-defense situation versus using a pistol. Now, the other benefit of these AR pistols is that almost all of them now come optic ready, where you can put a big optic on there, and this is what you want. You want a big optic like this Holosun 507C. Let me show you guys what that looks like in the glass, right? So you see, there it is. You see that reticle, right? So even with one hand, you can see how I can easily. That's how I was able to hit those targets so easily, even and because the window's so big, you can find that. And especially if you're in a situation where you are, let's say, moving and shooting, I can move and I can still keep that circle on target a lot easier. And here's the other thing. Basically, any gun that you're going to use for self-defense at this point must have an optic on it. Okay, all my guns, including my carry gun, all have optics on it because I have seen through, because I shoot every day. Okay, I shoot guns with optics way better than guns that don't have optics. Now, I shoot guns that don't have optics pretty well. You guys saw me shooting the Glock 17 one-handed. That target over there is 45 feet away from me. At 45 feet, that target is 2 feet tall by 1 foot wide, and I'm able to shoot this just with the iron sights. However, with the optic, I can shoot it better. All right, over here I'm shooting 45 feet. Well, I can get with the optic. Right, let's say this gun over here that has the optic, I can get the same accuracy at twice the distance. At about 90 feet, I can get the same hit. And again, because it's that big, it's got a, now the window on this isn't as big as the rifle. That's got the ACSS reticle. And you can see if I'm offline, how that helps me come back into view. So don't buy any guns unless they will take optics. And you want these two. You want the Holosun 510C for your rifle, and you want the Holosun ACSS for your pistol. Now, unfortunately, for the Glock 43 that I have here, they do not have an ACSS option yet, right? So this one, I just have that 32 MOA circle. So if I come offline, you basically have to go back, have to try and find my iron sights in order to get that. Okay, so hopefully at some point the technology will improve where that other reticle will be available on this. Okay, but especially at night, if you've got just plain iron sights, you're not going to be able to see the iron sights. Okay, these optics, they work at night, and especially like the one that I have here, this is battery powered with a solar panel on top of it. So it has two energy sources. It's solar powered, plus it has a battery back. Okay, so that's what you want in the pistol. And like I said, what I just demonstrated to you guys is that this gun over here, okay, even as I was shooting in this weird, actually I was shooting it like this, one-handed, upside down, right, and I still wasn't jamming the gun. When I took this factory Glock 17 and I took a weak grip on this, I jammed up the gun. I did intentionally at will. And what I find is that most women, especially when you put them on a handgun, they jam up the gun. Now with training, they get better at it. It doesn't, right? But the problem is that they get it's one thing to get good enough so that you can shoot at the gun range. It's another thing to be able to get good enough to be able to shoot the gun under stressful circumstances. So if you only practice at a two-dimensional range where you're just target shooting, you're really not preparing to use the gun for a stressful situation. So you need to go You need to go to a place like me. It doesn't have to be me, but a place like me. You guys can watch all my videos. You see the type of training that I do, where you can move around 306 degrees, shoot in all directions, and then you can have somebody there like me that can stress you out, that can tell you faster, move to the left, move to the right, do some push-ups, get up and shoot, So you need somebody to stress you like that, give you conflicting commands, go left, go right. No, I didn't say that. I said the other thing. All that is just meant to confuse you and force you to be able to function in situations where you may not have a complete understanding of what is going on. You might be a little beat up. Maybe you've been hit on the head. You've got to be able to function under those circumstances. The bottom line is that the AR pistol is, if you have to go out in the riot situation, if you can't bring with you a standard AR-15 that shoots 5.56, the AR pistol is probably your next best choice if your state will allow you to have that. Now here in Pennsylvania, we are allowed to have that. Now how do I know? I had basically, I looked at the law myself, but sometimes, I'm not a lawyer, so it's hard to understand it. So what I do is I got a prepaid legal service. It's called U.S. Law Shield, which I'm going to recommend to you guys. Okay, I called these guys up and I asked them, and not only did I ask them, I told them to put it in writing for me so I have a future reference. And here is, and it's not expensive. It's like $20. It's like $40, I think, up front, and then you're paying like somewhere between $10. It says $10 there, but with with some add-ons that you might want, like if you want to add your wife or something, it might go up to $15. And I got a promo code for you guys over here. So there's their phone number, there's their website, and the promo code is Pocono Shooting. That will get you some discount. I don't know offhand what it is. It might be an extra month or something. I don't know. But there's your promo discount. And the great thing about having this legal service is, first of all, if I get into a self-defense situation, I got a lawyer on call. All I tell the cop is, hey, I had to use, my life was in danger. I had to defend myself. That's the bad guy over there. There's the witnesses. Take a look at the evidence that's on the ground over here. There's his gun. Talk to those people. They saw. I can't give you any details myself right now because I have to talk to my attorney first because I'm under a lot of stress. And you got your lawyer on the phone. You put them on the phone with the cop, and they're going to tell the cop the same thing, that they're representing you. They can't ask you any questions. Okay, and that's because what's going to happen is if you start talking, you're gonna make mistakes, and I don't mean you're gonna make mistakes in terms you're gonna get the timing wrong, you're gonna get the order in which things happen wrong, you're gonna forget things, and what's gonna happen is you're gonna give one statement there, and then a couple of days later, as you start to remember things, you're gonna make another statement, and then they're gonna say, okay, you gave us two different reports here. Were you lying to us then, or are you lying to us now? Okay, so that's why you don't give a statement. You talk to your lawyer, and then your lawyer is going to make that statement for you, okay? So you need that prepaid legal service to help you immediately when you're in trouble. But also if you're traveling, like let's say if I'm going to Florida or something, basically I'll call these guys up, and I'll say, hey, I'm going from here to Florida. I got a Pennsylvania carry permit. What states can I carry in? Which states do I need to unload? Which states should I avoid altogether? They're going to give me an itinerary. Okay? And the other thing, the way that I use these guys most often is when I just have a gun question. Like, for example, is it legal for me to carry this Polymer 80, right? This ghost gun that I built myself. So I called them up and they said, yes, it is legal for me to carry this in Pennsylvania. Okay. And then if I'm traveling to other states, like one of the questions I would have was, is it legal for me to take it to those other states? And they're going to tell me. I don't know. It's 50 states. I don't know what the answer to that is unless I specifically ask them. And if you guys are in New York, New Jersey, Maryland, California, Illinois, Washington, D.C., any of these anti-gun states where you just got the right to carry, right? Or basically the Supreme Court affirmed your pre-existing right to carry, because that's already in the Second Amendment. Now there's going to start being all sorts of changes in the law, and those are pretty much anti-gun states. So they're going to put up roadblocks. These roadblocks are going to change frequently. So you need somebody to answer those questions for you, okay? And I'm not going to know the answer to that. And even if I know today, it might change a week from now or a month from now. So that's why you need a prepaid legal service. If you don't use these guys, find somebody else. That's fine. I'm just recommending these guys because I use them and I have a promo code for you guys. If I had a promo code for somebody else, I would give you that as well. But that's what I got for you guys. So what I showed you guys today that the AR pistol is the best choice if you can't carry an AR rifle. And the nice thing about this is you can collapse it, right? And I can tuck this inside my jacket. Now, the thing with AR-15s is that these are mil-spec, military specifications. So these are built to a standard, right? The standardized. With the AR pistols, in other calibers like 9mm, they're not built to a military standard because there just isn't one. So you know, like I've got a Palmetto here. It works really great, but the reason why I know is because I have shot it a lot. Okay, you've got to test the gun out yourself. You got to test it. You can't just buy it, shoot like 10 or 20 rounds or even 50 rounds and assume that the gun's good and reliable. You have to shoot a couple 100 rounds. You don't have to do it all in one day, but you've got to test the gun out because it is not built to any standards. Okay, each company that makes these, right, they kind of make it to their own standard, you know. So you gotta test it out, but it is a great choice if you need to go out during a riot and you can't take a rifle, and you know, taking a 5.56 pistol like this, right? You have to concern yourself with the muzzle flash and the extreme sound. That 9mm AR is kind of fits that niche, right? Where I have a small collapsible gun, right? Where this can collapsible, I can carry this either in my truck or under my coat. And my Pennsylvania carry permit is good for this. Can you carry it in your state? I don't know. You gotta ask these guys or some other a lawyer. Good thing about these guys is they're cheap. You know, I think it ends up costing you somewhere between $150 to $200 a year. If you go to the gun range, you know, every time I go to a gun range, well, I'm here at a gun range every day, but most people, when they go to a gun range, they spend more than $150, okay? So the $150 that you're paying a year on this prepaid lawyer is going to be pretty much the same as a trip to the range or cheaper, depending on how much shooting you do. The other thing I want to say, as far as the pistols, make sure that they all are optic ready. This Glock 15 here, right, does not take an optic. This is an antique, okay? Anytime you see a gun that does not take an optic, it's an antique, okay? Well, either antique or junk, depending on your point of view. Do not buy guns that will not take optics. Talk to somebody like me as far as what optic, because the guns are, you know, some guns will only take some optics. Glock MOS, they have a modular optic system, so that'll pretty much take all the popular optics. So Glock MOS is a good place to start off with. Okay, that's a good choice. Other thing I just wanted to mention really quickly. A lot of times when people talk about the over penetration, that can become an issue. Now, a lot of people say, why would I want to carry an AR rifle? Is there an over penetration issue with this? Now, one of the things that I want you guys to look at is if you look at the 9mm bullet versus an AR bullet, a 5.56 over here, you will see that the AR-15 bullet is a lot smaller. Right, that's only 55 grains. That is 115 grains. So that's about as big, twice as big as it. The only difference is that the 5.56 has a lot more gunpowder behind it. So what happens is, on initial impact, like if you see the steel rims over there, the 5.56 will penetrate those rims, whereas the 9mm won't. But when I take, let's say, multiple barriers, like if you put like I've tested this out with barrels, right? So if I put like 7 barrels and I space them 15 feet apart, the 9mm actually ends up penetrating 1 barrel more. And people have tested this with sheetrock. Same thing, if you test it through layers of sheetrock, the 9mm does penetrate a little bit more than the 5.56. So the 5.56 would be a better choice if you're able to carry it. But I don't want to carry it in this AR pistol because of that muzzle flash. You know, once you start shooting at night, the target's going to disappear. You know, your reticle's going to disappear. But the penetration of the 9mm is not that much more. Okay, so the 9mm, when it goes through multiple barriers, it will penetrate a little bit more because it has a little bit more mass, but not that much more. So just something that, just something to be aware of. ultimately you have to, as the situation is developing, right? You have to become aware of the entire surroundings, right? So if I got a threat there, and I see there's other people behind them, I can use the time as the situation is escalating to change my position, okay? And if I don't get a chance to assess what's behind the threat, I mean, one of the options is that you can shoot, towards the, like I train to target the lower hip and belly area over here in situations where I don't get to scan the area. So I can aim low. I don't mean legs. I mean, just below center mass. You're still shooting the torso, right? You're shooting the bottom area here. So, in a situation where you're belly to belly with somebody, right? The bullet's only going to go about 3. If I pull out the handgun here and I got one hand here, defending low, or if I'm shooting like this and I'm shooting low, if the bullets miss, they're only going to go about 4 feet behind the threat into the ground. Okay. Now, of course, that changes if you're in a building. You have to worry about who's on the floor below you. But one of the things that I train is I train for an ambush situation. I target the lower area. Now, the question becomes, can it be said that like you're not shooting to, are you shooting to stop the threat? Are you using deadly force, but is deadly force really just needed if you're obviously not trying to, if you're not aiming for the heart and lungs? Well, the way I say is that this area down here, I mean, if you get hit over here, you're just as dead as if you get hit up here. It just might take you a little bit longer to bleed out. So I don't think there's that much of a difference between here and targeting here. And again, this is also a reason why you don't talk to the police, because if you don't talk to the police, you don't have to explain to them that, hey, you were concerned about other bystanders, and you shout like this because you wanted to make sure that those people down there didn't get hit. You don't tell that to the police. You tell that to your lawyer, and then your lawyer decides if that's something that they should bring up. If this goes to court, if they decide if that's something that needs to be brought up. If it's not in your interest for this to be discussed, it's not discussed. Why the bullets go low? Because that's where they went. So you don't have to say where specifically you were targeting, or your lawyer doesn't need to say that unless it's in your interest. Okay, but me, I want to be aware of what my surroundings are. I want to know what's behind my target. And if I don't know what's behind my target, the only thing I know is behind, if I'm in an ambush situation, I know that I want to position the gun so I know that what's behind my target is the ground, 3 or 4 feet away. So this is a good way this is something that I think that should be drilled into your training. Doesn't mean that you're always going to shoot like this, but this is just a tool that you want in your toolbox. Okay, in an ambush situation, you're targeting the lower area here where the bullets are going to the ground. You can't depend on hollow points, because a lot of the shots that you fire are going to miss. So you can't just say I'm using hollow points and they're not going to go through. They're not going to pass through the target, because you have to understand that in a realistic situation, you may not even get a chance to get to your iron sights. Okay, so you have to change your positioning. So anyway, I hope that information was useful to you guys. Drop some comments below. Let me know what you guys think. If you're not a member of my channel, subscribe. Make sure you follow me. I have a couple of channels because of the YouTube censoring. I got Absolute Gun Rights, Pocono Shooting, and the original Safa channel that goes back to 2006. Also on Rumble, I'm Pocono Guns, and on Odyssey, I am Pocono Tactical.